The standard model of PTSD is kind of low resolution. It's as simple as this, okay? There's an adverse event, okay, and it's bad enough that you end up with PTSD and you get this grab bag of symptoms, right? And that's kind of about as high resolution as it seems to get out there. So what do? You chuck a bunch of different treatments at it, okay, and maybe your symptoms reduce. If you're lucky, I tend to get the people who they've already had that process happen and they've still got heaps of symptoms and they're pretty well stuck. There's not a lot of kind of root cause going on here.
No,
it's
there's
just
not.
dampening down symptoms.
No.
So what we kind of get is this sort of situation whereby there's this terrible thing that happened. I can't change the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I'm stuck.
And now I'm stuck like this.
Yeah. I'm in this alarm state. Right. And usually what they do is the lesson that they've learned is just avoid stuff as much as you can.
Yeah. The world is dangerous. Don't engage.
Okay. And that sort of keeps them stuck.
Yeah.
All right. So that's kind of what I inherit
Yeah.
in terms of the patients. All right. So what can we do a bit better? Firstly, the emphasis in most PTSD treatment is on the adverse event that caused the PTSD. Okay, but if you think about PTSD, two people can go to the same adverse event.
Yep.
All right. One walks away with PTSD, one doesn't. Okay. The difference is one had a susceptibility that the other one didn't.
Yeah.
And this is the major sort of breakthrough I think we've made.
Yeah.
Okay. Is realizing that the emphasis needs to be on one's susceptibility. Okay.
Yes.
Rather than on necessarily the adverse event. The adverse event can help you find out what the susceptibility is.
Yeah.
All right.
So a lot of the treatments that I've done or that I've been trained to do of kind of imaginal exposure, tell us a story of what happened, let's go over and over until you habituate the fear response has always been kind of targeted on this. And maybe we would eventually stumble upon this and make some changes, but it was never kind of a targeted intervention until you and I have been doing this, that I'm now looking at everyone going, right, what's your susceptibility? What's the actual lesson we need to learn? How do we actually make the changes?
Yeah, yeah. So another way of thinking about PTSD then, it's an unaddressed vulnerability state.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're still vulnerable, you need to be at alert.
Yes.
Okay. If you're vulnerable as hell and says, I'll just go out there, it'll be fine. Well, that's not going to work out. Okay. So there's an unaddressed susceptibility, and as a result, we're in this alarm state. So I'll call it yellow alert, and it's just like a baseline alarm state of being mildly freaked out the whole time, not being able to really enjoy much of anything because you're too kind of freaked out. All right. And as a result, you don't really want to go out and do stuff because it's depleting.
Yeah. So
Right.
heightened level of arousal, the hypervigilance, agitation, on edge, sleep problems.
And on a bad day, bang, red alert, okay? And that's when people are really distressed. So that red alert it's like a panic attack, essentially, all right? It's extremely unpleasant. People do whatever they can to avoid it, all right?
Most people would describe that as getting triggered.
Yes.
Would be putting them into red alert.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right. So that's kind of, the everyday sort of experience, okay? But the other thing that's really critical, and this is the big clue, I think, is that these memories bubble up. The memory of the trauma bubbles up. Nightmares that relate to the trauma bubble up. Or there'll be something in your environment that reminds you of the trauma and bang, you're thinking about it, okay? Now, what I've formulated those as they're not so much intrusive memories, okay? It's more your subconscious is reminding you that you are still susceptible.
Yeah.
Okay? You've got a chink in your armor,
Yeah.
okay? That means that you could get taken out again.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they are intrusive memories, but this is the function of the intrusive memories, is to warn you of the susceptibility. So can I use an example?
Sure.
All right. So I had a patient where she had a dog attack. She was out for a walk by herself. Unbeknownst to her, there was a Rottweiler off leash, came up, bit her on the leg, and she was then terrified of dogs, developed this massive kind of dog phobia and all of that, to the point that she wouldn't go and visit her best friend anymore because her best mate had a Chihuahua. She wouldn't go for walks at the beach because there was too many dogs. She wouldn't even watch like TV shows with dogs in it. Massive trauma response for the dog, okay? But every time she would see that dog, it was like her brain was going, hey, see that dog over there? Do you remember that really terrible thing that happened? Don't go near that dog, otherwise that bad thing's going to happen again. So what she kind of learnt from, what she believed her susceptibility was, is that she is now vulnerable to a dog attack from every single dog that's out there. So she kind of just resolved that by avoiding all dogs. But it meant she wouldn't go to the beach and she wouldn't see friends, and so the world got smaller.
So it's a very low resolution.
Very low resolution.
Kind of solution. So in this case, it's, if there's a big Rottweiler off the lead, that's something to be freaked out about.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
But if there's a Chihuahua at your neighbour's place or at your friend's place or whatever, it doesn't make sense to be freaked out about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's mitigating her susceptibility. Okay. But it's too low resolution.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, you've got all this stuff going on. Red alert, yellow alert, susceptibility warnings going off all the time. Okay. And the susceptibility warnings, of course, put you
as
into red alert.
As soon as you see a dog, you get triggered, you get a red alert. Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, all of this is really depleting, right? It's a bit like having too many windows open on your phone and your phone doesn't run right, okay? So you're really low RAM, which means you're cranky, you can't concentrate, you're sensitive, okay? And it's even harder to figure out your susceptibilities because of the low RAM. Okay, so this is kind of the model of PTSD that we're using, all right? Which makes a lot more sense of treatments. You know, there's treatments that you might throw at hypervigilance. There's treatments that you might throw at the red alert state. Okay, things like, you know, burst exercise or tip technique with ice packs and things. There's things that you might throw at low RAM to optimize sleep and concentration and so forth. But this is the root cause. This is what needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and if all you're doing is targeting these bits, you will get that symptom reduction, but it's only a matter of time before you stop using those skills and then all of this kind of starts bubbling up again because we never actually address the root cause.
Yeah, okay. Alrighty, so this is our higher resolution model.
Yeah, so this is your model, right? This is what you've come up with. Good.
All right, so what are the susceptibilities? So susceptibilities are something that you can, if you can identify your susceptibility, okay, that means you've got a shot at mitigating your susceptibility.
Okay.
All right? And by doing so, you learn the lesson of the trauma.
Yeah.
Okay, so the adverse event has demonstrated you were susceptible in some way. All right?
Yeah.
And the lesson from the trauma is to do something about that susceptibility, all right, so that you're unlikely to be traumatized again in that way.
Yeah, okay. Let's make it clear that for this, we're only talking in the context of adult trauma, because the susceptibility list for childhood trauma, children have a way different susceptibility by the fact that they don't have agency.
Yeah, well, let's hold that over. Yeah, but you're right. That's a massive kind of difference between childhood trauma and adult trauma.
So for this model right now, we're only applying it to adult trauma.
Yeah, okay. So the big susceptibilities, or the number one biggest susceptibility is naivety.
Yeah.
Okay, and we don't know what we're naive to, otherwise we wouldn't be naive to it. Okay, but this is often people have they don't have an expectation walking into a situation that they're going to be traumatized. Otherwise, I wouldn't walk into the situation, okay? And it's through experience that you can learn that, well, that situation that I thought would be okay ain't okay.
Yeah.
All right? So naivety is massive.
Okay? Yeah. Let's be clear, this isn't about victim blaming or anything. This isn't about saying, oh, well, you should have been more aware of the situation. No, you weren't and you couldn't because you didn't have the information.
Yeah.
This is now looking more at, right, from this event, you now have awareness of this situation. Let's use that information to now modify how you engage in life moving forward, which can be things like fine-tuning your intuition, getting better at trusting those gut instincts, getting better at picking up on those cues of something about this doesn't feel right and I'm actually going to leave now instead of going, oh, I'll wait and see how this plays out. And you get better at going, okay, I've been here, done that, not doing it again. And that's more what we're looking at around kind of what was the actual lesson from the susceptibility to reduce the likelihood of it happening again.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what's the chink in our armour.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so the other thing that can be potentially a big factor is temperament, okay? So naivety, I mean, we're all naive, we don't quite know what we're naive to, but the other thing is temperament, and you can have an awareness of your temperament.
Yeah,
all right?
So my neuroticism is higher than yours, that's no secret, which means that I am likely more susceptible to having a trauma response to an adverse event than you are.
Fair enough, yeah, I mean, if you're, I'm not saying I'm super fearless, but if someone's really fearless, they might, no worries, you know, I can work, you know, in a front end police role for 20 years, and my fearlessness means I haven't had PTSD until finally I do.
Yeah.
Okay?
See our Dan Wall metaphor for that video. Yeah.
All right. So neuroticism. So in other words, you can go either way. So with neuroticism, a given trauma is more likely maybe to tip you into PTSD. But if you're really low in neuroticism, you're more likely to accumulate heaps of trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, when the Dan Wall breaks, you just get taken out. All right. So that's one temperamental factor. Another one is some people are really trusting, okay? They're very high in agreeability, okay? It's like, I just want to smooth the waters. I'm sure this will go fine, you know, no
people
worries.
Have good intentions.
Yeah.
I'm sure my boss has got my back in this.
Exactly. And then you can find yourself wiped out.
Yeah.
Okay? Some people are sort of the opposite of this. So we sort of talked about fearlessness and recklessness with sensitivity, but some people with willfulness, they're like, you can be on the disagreeable side. It's like, I'm not going to put up with this. Okay, I'm going to stay in this situation and fight the buggers. All right, and I'm not copping it. All right, 5 years of that, and you're getting absolutely slammed.
Yep.
All right, and it wears you down, and you end up with PTSD
burnout.
that way. Okay, I guess another category, I mean, look, there's a million susceptibilities. These are just some of the big ones, okay? Another category is moral injury, and that's a situation where through something that you did or something that you didn't do but you kind of wished you had done, all right, by not doing the thing, you've transgressed your moral values.
Yes.
Okay, so it's common in the military. Okay, so for example, I've had situations where a person was in a position to do something that they really wanted to do to save the life of someone. Okay, but because it was sort of against the sort of rules of engagement, okay, they weren't able to. And so consequently, there was a significant adverse event, and now they've got to live with that guilt. So they did the right thing by the rules of engagement, but they're stuck with the predicament.
Yeah, but they did the wrong thing against their values.
Exactly.
And that's why there's a moral injury.
Yeah. And so, I mean, had you been able to forecast that going in, you could have acted differently potentially, but we can't. So we're sort of naive to where they're going to pop up.
Yeah.
All right. And then when they happen, we're not pre-prepared for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that this kind of gets down to the simplistic version is going, oh, I have this memory of this bad thing that happened. This memory keeps bothering me. But no, the actual reason why this is still staying alive for you is that kind of that values transgression or the
I could
underlying.
do this again.
Yeah,
I could do this again. I could find myself in a situation where I repeat this. That's why all these things are a problem. Because if you're too agreeable, yes, I always agree to things. Oh shit, I'm in that situation again.
Yeah.
All right. Likewise with the moral injury, I haven't got a well articulated sense of what my values are.
Yeah.
So, my intuition might inform me at the right time.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, what can we do about it? Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So we need to make sense of the adverse event. Okay. So the adverse event, it's got the lesson is in the adverse event. Okay.
Yeah.
The susceptibilities can be derived from understanding the adverse event, but if you can't even look at the adverse event, how are you supposed to do anything?
Yeah, so it's a symptom reduction to kind of habituate your capacity to deal with that, to then get you into your window of tolerance where we can do some of this deeper work. And you're really going to need a therapist to help you out with this.
Pretty much. You need to be able to fully understand the story. Okay, and chances are you're going to need some help along the way with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people with PTSD can remember the story, perfectly. They haven't got gaps and jumbled up things, but plenty of people do.
Yep.
All right. Having understood the story, you can then start to identify what the susceptibilities are, okay, and then potentially mitigate them. So the memories and nightmares provide clues to the susceptibility. That's right, Maria. All right, so susceptibility identification. Imaginal exposure to understand the events. That's a form of therapy whereby you get the whole story out. Another way of doing it is this thing called written layered trauma analysis. That's something that we've developed. We'll put a talk up on that at some point, okay? But it's basically a way where you can unpack the trauma, figure out the emotions, figure out the meanings of what happened, figure out the susceptibilities, and then determine how you can mitigate them. Right?
And you've done this one of your past events, so we can use the examples of that when we do the video, so you'll see how that works.
Yeah. There are some trauma therapies that can get it, but sometimes it's more sort of accidental, so you can be doing some form of trauma therapy and you unpack the story and it's like, oh, the susceptibility bubbles up and it's like, oh, aha, and the light bulbs kind of go off and yay when that happens. But it's not, that's sort of often not the objective in therapy, whereas I think it should be.
Yeah.
Okay. Expressive writing is another way you can potentially get at that, and there's some surprisingly good evidence that writing about the event, incorporating emotions and thinking about the meanings of what happened can help you get to the susceptibilities. All right, once you've figured out the susceptibilities though, that's actually kind of the easy bit, all right? The hard bit is mitigating them, all right? Because it's against our tendency. Like if I'm really agreeable and that's my susceptibility because I'm too likely to agree to stuff and find myself in that sort of situation, that's a problem, but that's my default.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not an easy thing to learn to be a bit more disagreeable.
Which I'd frame as assertive as opposed to aggressive. You don't want to do a pendulum swing to the other way because that'll cause more problems, but kind of finding that middle ground, learning to set boundaries, use your voice, push back where you need to. Yep.
So mitigating susceptibilities is difficult. Essentially what we're trying to do is we want to take whatever steps are necessary in the real world, once we've identified our susceptibility, to address it. Okay, and that means we've sort of got to change our model of things. Maybe if I am too agreeable, well, I have to learn how to be more assertive. Otherwise, the same thing could happen to me again.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What else? Yeah. So look, we're saying essentially what we're trying to do is learn the actual lesson of the trauma at high resolution. So avoid everything. Low resolution doesn't fix the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Figure out exactly why I'm susceptible and figure out exactly what I need to do not to be susceptible. That means I can go out into the world safely and not be traumatized because of that now mitigated susceptibility.
Yeah, so it would, instead of the low resolution lesson of dogs are bad or dogs are dangerous, it's large dogs off a leash who aren't socialised are a potential threat, and avoid situations where that is likely to occur. But visiting my best friend who has a Chihuahua, that one's going to be okay.
Yeah, and not only is it going to be okay, it's actually the pathway out, because you need to develop courage in the face of your fear of those smaller dogs. And the solution to that is to actually experience the fact that they're survivable.
Yeah.
Okay, the Chihuahua is a survivable creature.
Yeah, yes.
All right.
Yes. Now, you are working very hard on writing an ebook for all of this, so that will be coming out very soon. That goes through this. When you've got pages of susceptibility and all of this sort of stuff in a lot more detail available in the ebook. So stay tuned for that. When it's ready, we will announce it on Facebook, Instagram, and of course through our website is where you'll be able to get that one. Okay.
Psycollective.com.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, folks.